wasted potential. It's heavier than chains, heavier than stone. It's an anchor wrapped around the neck of your soul, pulling you down into the depths of regret. Most people think the heaviest burdens in life are failures, betrayals, loss. But there's nothing heavier, nothing more suffocating than the crushing weight of what could have been. A burden that doesn't just sit on your shoulders, it settles deep into your bones, poisoning your every thought, your every breath. The lost opportunities, the talents left to rot, the gifts never unwrapped, the dreams buried alive. These things haunt you far longer than any defeat, because failure, at least, comes with finality. A sharp, bitter end, yes, but an end nonetheless. Wasted potential, though. That's the haunting of a lifetime. It lingers, it whispers, it claws at the edges of your mind. It keeps you up at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision, every moment, wondering where you would be now if you hadn't been so weak, so complacent, so afraid. It's the burden that wraps itself around your throat and whispers of all that you could have been, all that you should have been. If only you had been brave enough to act. Potential is a beautiful lie. It's a promise whispered in the darkness, a fleeting glimpse of greatness that dances just beyond your reach. Most live their whole lives clutching that promise, savoring the illusion of what they could become. But potential alone is worthless. It's an empty shell, a hollow dream. Potential is only as valuable as the action it inspires. The potential for greatness means nothing if it stays locked away in the prison of your own fear, your own laziness, your own comfort. What's worse, a life of failure or a life of untapped brilliance, rotting away in the basement of your own mediocrity? Think about it. How many people die with their music still inside them? How many carry a fire in their hearts, only to let it suffocate in the safety of the mundane? Potential is a cruel master. It gives you just enough hope to keep you yearning. But when left unrealized, it turns on you. It becomes a tormentor, a constant reminder of the greatness that could have been, should have been, but never was. And the longer you let it sit there, unused, the heavier it gets. It grows, warping into regret, into bitterness, until it's a weight you can't bear, and yet can never put down. A man can survive failure. A man can survive loss. But to look back on a life half-lived, to realize that you had greatness in your grasp, that you were meant for something more, and you chose comfort instead, that's a wound that never heals. That's a wound that festers, rotting the soul from the inside out. Wasted potential is the ghost that follows you into every empty room, that watches you from every shadow, that whispers in your ear when you think no one's listening. You could have been so much more. And it's right. It's always right. Because wasted potential isn't just a burden, it's a condemnation. A life squandered, a flame snuffed out, a masterpiece that will never be seen. And the worst part? You're the one holding the brush. You're the one who chose to let the canvas remain blank. The world is filled with those who carry this weight, who will drag it to their graves, never realizing, or maybe just never admitting, that it was within their power all along to put it down, to take action, to transform potential into reality. But no, most would rather let it fester, let it grow, than confront the terror of reaching for something greater and facing the possibility of failure. Because failure, at least, is a scar you can wear, a wound that proves you fought, that you dared. But wasted potential? It's the absence of a scar. It's the story untold, the victory never sought. It's the empty void where something magnificent should have been. The darkness that fills the space where light was meant to shine. And that void, it consumes you. It swallows you whole, feeding on every excuse, every hesitation, every moment you chose to remain safe instead of taking the risk to be extraordinary. It's a hunger that never dies, a thirst that can never be quenched. Because wasted potential is a hunger for what could have been. The heaviest burden isn't the weight of your failures, your disappointments. It's the weight of your unfulfilled promise, the weight of your own hesitation. It's the agony of looking in the mirror and knowing that every flaw, every limitation, every broken dream is your fault. Because you could have been more. You should have been more. But you let the world keep you small. You let fear keep you bound. And now, you'll never know what you might have been if only you had been willing to pay the price. If you don't know what you want, then focus on what you refuse to become. Study your deepest fears, your most wretched weaknesses, the version of yourself that makes your blood run cold. That's your map. That's your starting point. Map out your villain arc. Craft it, shape it, breathe life into that twisted vision. And then spend every waking moment ensuring that image never comes to pass. Because the greatest weapon in the hands of the lost isn't hope, it's fear. Fear of what they might become if they don't rise, if they don't fight, if they let life chew them up and spit them out. Because if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, then burn the path behind you so there's no way back. If you can't picture the greatness you want, then let the dread of mediocrity drive you forward. Become obsessed with avoiding the wretched creature you'll transform into if you don't act, if you don't push, if you let yourself wither into nothing. There's power in knowing exactly what you don't want. It's a darker kind of clarity, a mirror held up to every flaw, every weakness, every ugly truth. But that clarity, it's fuel. It's what sharpens your resolve, focuses your rage, and molds you into something unbreakable. Because without vision, most fall prey to comfort. They wander aimlessly, drifting, waiting for some divine inspiration that never comes. But fear is tangible. Fear is sharp. Fear carves out a path where none existed before. And when you're driven by the refusal to ever see that nightmare made flesh, you become relentless. Because the villain arc isn't something outside you. It's within. It's the twisted reflection of everything you're too afraid to confront. Everything that lurks in the depths of your potential. If you ignore it, you're doomed to become it. But if you face it, if you use it, it becomes your greatest ally. It's not about becoming the hero, not about finding some golden purpose wrapped in ribbons and light. Number. It's about becoming something else, something that thrives in the dark, something that claws its way forward, even when the road ahead is nothing but shadow and uncertainty. Become a nobody. Shatter every label. Discard every identity. Erase every expectation until you are nothing more than raw potential. Because only a nobody can become anything. The world can't touch what it can't define. It can't control what it can't see. And when you're free of every illusion, every imposed limit, you become unstoppable. People crave identity, cling to it like a lifeline, desperate for some sense of self. But identity is a cage, a set of rules built to keep you small, to keep you contained. Be a nobody, a blank slate, an unchained force with no limits, no expectations, no boundaries. And then, from that darkness, build. Build yourself piece by piece, with intent, with precision, with the full knowledge of what you're creating. Because when you're a nobody, the universe is forced to respond. It bends for the ones who move without chains, without names, without form. It rewards those who defy every label, every structure, every confining definition of who they should be. Being a nobody means letting go of the comfort of recognition, the safety of a label. It means stripping down every illusion, every falsehood, until you are raw potential and nothing more. And that's terrifying for most. But for those who embrace it, it's liberation. Because a nobody can become. A nobody can evolve. A nobody can rise without the burden of expectation, without the weight of preconceived limits. The universe rewards those who abandon its petty labels, its suffocating molds. It gives power to those who dare to dissolve, to erase, to become nothing. Because in becoming nothing, you're free to become everything. Free to transcend the shackles of identity, to shatter the boxes others would put you in. No one can hold you down if you've discarded the chains yourself. No one can keep you in a corner if you've burned every wall to ash. So let the fear of stagnation be your guide. Map out that villainous arc, that twisted caricature of what you'll become if you let your potential die. Stare into the abyss of what you could be if you surrendered, if you gave up, if you let yourself rot in mediocrity, and then turn away. Turn your back on the illusion of comfort. Turn your back on the ease of the path already laid before you. Turn your back on everything you thought you were supposed to be. Burn it all down. Become a ghost, a shadow, an unformed thing that no one can predict, no one can corner, no one can control. Let go of every dream that was given to you, every purpose that was forced upon you. Let go of everything except the refusal to be ordinary, the refusal to become the weak, hollow version of yourself that's always lurking just below the surface. The chains people wear are invisible, forged from routine, complacency, and the illusion of obligation. Imagine living each day as a puppet, bound to a schedule not of your choosing, trading away the hours of your life in exchange for a paycheck that can barely buy your freedom back. The endless cycle, the grind, numbing yourself from Monday to Friday, filling the void with empty distractions, mindless entertainment, and fleeting pleasures. All for what? To one day wake up, look back, and wonder where the hell it all went. All those dreams, those ambitions, evaporated into the gray monotony of another life, half-lived. You weren't born for this. Not to be a cog, not to be a number, not to be part of some nameless, faceless herd, trudging along a path carved out by others. To exist like this, boxed in by the same hours, the same tasks, the same sterile existence, is to wither away from the inside out. It's slow, it's methodical, but it's effective. And one day, you blink, and you're a shell of what you could have been. A ghost walking through a life that isn't yours, numbing yourself day by day just to survive, instead of thriving. There's a reason so many turn to mindless escapism, to drown out the nagging voice that whispers, "Is this it? Is this really it?" But silencing that voice doesn't kill it. It grows, it festers, it gnaws away at your insides until it becomes a scream that no amount of noise can drown out. And that's when it hits you. The hours you've sold can never be bought back. The time you wasted can never be reclaimed. The days, the months, the years, all devoured by a system that never cared for your potential, your passion, or your dreams. You weren't born to live like that. No one was. But the world has a way of conditioning you, molding you, pressing you into a shape that fits its machinery. It dangles distractions and rewards, lulls you into a rhythm of productivity, while draining you of everything that makes you unique. That's the cost of conformity. Slowly, day by day, you are stripped of your spark, your fire, until you're left standing in the ruins of a life you never really chose. Most people don't realize they're imprisoned until the bars have already rusted in place. There's a way out, but it's not what most would choose. It's not about chasing after some idealized vision of happiness or success. It's about elimination. Forget striving for a life of luxury, a life of leisure, a life built on other people's ideals. If you don't know what you want, focus instead on what you refuse to become, what you will never tolerate. Because if you can't yet define your dreams, you sure as hell can define your nightmares. Know them, name them, stare them down, let them be your compass, your guide, your unwavering no to a life of quiet desperation. Every choice you make, every step you take, filter it through the lens of what you despise. Make that your purpose. Imagine yourself shackled to that miserable 9-to-5, slaving away for a paycheck, dead-eyed, disillusioned. Imagine the years slipping through your fingers like grains of sand. That's what awaits if you don't act, if you don't fight, if you don't rebel against the machine of mediocrity that wants to swallow you whole. Filter everything through that nightmare. If you can't chase your dreams, run like hell from your fears. Run so fast, fight so fiercely, that even the chains can't keep up. Because a life of endless routine is a slow death. It's a surrender. Every choice that leads you toward that path is a nail in your own coffin. So refuse to settle, refuse to conform, refuse to become another faceless drone in a world that thrives on your compliance. Choose discomfort, choose risk, choose the path that scares you. Choose the unknown, because the unknown, at least, is alive. It's brimming with potential, with danger, with possibility. And that is infinitely better than the suffocating predictability of a life dictated by a calendar you didn't design, by a role you didn't choose, by a purpose that was never yours. Be relentless. Every decision is a step closer to freedom, or a step deeper into the grave of your own making. Learn to say no, not just to others, but to yourself, to your own lazy inclinations, to your own comfort-seeking habits. Look yourself in the mirror and choose the hard path, the uncomfortable road, the one that makes your muscles ache and your soul burn. Because that burn is proof that you're alive, that you're fighting, that you're defying the cage that society so desperately wants to trap you in. Most people walk through life shackled by their own ignorance, unaware that they carry the most powerful weapon ever created right between their ears. It's a supercomputer, capable of transforming thought into reality, capable of bending time and space in ways that would make lesser creatures tremble. And yet most squander it, letting it idle away, polluted by trivialities and poisoned by distractions. They let their minds go unchecked, untrained, like a beast starved in a cage, slowly losing its strength. All because they've forgotten the one undeniable fact: control the mind, and you control the world. Mental mastery isn't a luxury. It's survival. It's the only shield against a world that's hell-bent on reducing you to a puppet, manipulated by algorithms, seduced by endless streams of mindless stimuli. This world wants you sedated. It wants your mind soft, your thoughts pliable, so it can slip its chains around your brain and lead you exactly where it wants. That's the game. A war for your attention, a battle for your focus. And most are too blind, too weak, too compliant to even realize they're in the midst of a battlefield. Every time you scroll, every time you swipe, every time you numb your mind with some pointless distraction, you're handing over your most precious resource, your mind, on a silver platter. What a waste. What a tragic waste of the most complex, most powerful tool nature ever created. A mind left unguarded is a mind easily conquered. And once conquered, it becomes a weapon turned against its own master. A slave to external influence, its thoughts guided not by intention, but by the will of others. The untrained mind is a ticking time bomb, vulnerable to manipulation, to suggestion, to programming. But a trained mind is a fortress, a force of nature. It bends the chaos of the world to its will. It shapes reality instead of being shaped by it. A mind like that is a nightmare for those who seek to control, to tame, to subjugate. Because a mind like that is free. Freedom starts there, not with physical liberation, not with the shedding of chains, but with the mastery of the mind. Because once your mind is yours, fully yours, the world's grasp slips. It can't manipulate what it can't touch. It can't weaken what it can't access. And that terrifies those who profit off of a docile, obedient populace. The masses are meant to be led, to be fed illusions, to be lulled into quiet submission. But the masters of the mind, the true outcasts, refuse to be led. They refuse to let their thoughts be shaped by anyone but themselves. They refuse to surrender their greatest weapon to the dull hum of mediocrity.